Hello, this is Jonathan, Full for the Gospel. We're going to be continuing our Law versus Grace series today and getting into the effects that the law will have on an individual, especially if it's preached mixed with grace, preached by itself. We're going to be talking about that, and we're also going to be defining, which is the name of this episode, what is law? Previously on the first introduction video, we gave a analogy in skit format that basically talked about a butterfly that had hatched from its cocoon, and these other caterpillar butterfly type of people tried to force him back into his cocoon. And eventually he stopped flying. Eventually he became just something that he wasn't supposed to be. Basically, what Jesus is talking about many times is that new wine is for new wineskins. If you try to put new wine into old wineskins, it doesn't mix. And he's referring to the new covenant, the new life, the new fellowship that we have in him. It doesn't mix with that old system. The old system was fulfilled through Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, and vanishes away. So it's obsolete through the destruction of the temple. So something really important that I want to talk about is many people today don't necessarily struggle with the concept of the Ten Commandments or a lot of the stuff that's in the Old Testament law and things like that. That's not necessarily the struggle. There are laws today that are destroying us that aren't necessarily highlighted a lot in Scripture. It's there, but it's not like a whole section devoted to what we're going to be talking about today. And this subtle reality of these type of laws we're talking about, you may be dealing with them. A lot of times, it may not be a flight regulator that's in your life destroying it. It may be your own self that has laws and commandments or goals that are struggling and straining you and keeping you from living a free life that Christ is intending for you to live. So the first law that we're going to talk about is what I call the modern law, the law of how things are supposed to look. Some of the laws we're going to talk about are kind of interwoven, but the law of how things are supposed to look, it typically goes something like this. And many times, this form of legalism is actually disguised underneath something good. It's like picking up a rock because you see something shiny, but then there's a rattlesnake that's underneath the rock ready to bite and destroy you. The law of how things are supposed to look is typically disguised as a goal, an expectation, a dream. The disguise of this law is that it's typically underneath the expectation. And I'll give you an example. Say I have an expectation of having a clean house every single day. Okay? That in itself, having that goal, having that expectation is fine. But it's when you take this expectation, say this is like a cup of Kool-Aid, and you pour it into cement, it will then harden. It becomes rigid. It becomes unformable, unmalleable. It just becomes hard stone. And stone doesn't carry life. It's not alive, right? And this is where the law of how things are supposed to look come in. And they strangle the life of God and try to take it hostage. So say I have an expectation. We'll go back to the example. Things are supposed to look a certain way. I will expect my house to be clean every day. Now say, for example, I'm having a bad day. I didn't get enough sleep. The kids are not being as well behaved as I need them to be. What then begins to happen with these type of laws is you begin to, because they're poured into concrete stone things in your mind, like this is set in my mind, this is what it has to be. What then begins to happen is you'll begin to condemn yourself if you cannot fulfill your expectation. Really, it's a law. You'll begin to become hard on yourself. You'll begin to look at other people that are getting in the way of said expectation with a little bit less love. I mean, If you're married to someone like me who's very messy and you have an expectation of having a clean house, perfectly clean every single day, the expectation in itself is not evil, but it's when you cannot fulfill said expectation, how do you respond? Okay? And this is how the law of expectation, the modern law, begins to look. And this can permeate into anything you put your mind on: marriage, relationships, church, kids. You have an expectation. If people aren't meeting or you are not meeting said expectation, do you respond in love? Because love is patient, love is kind, love is gentle. Love does not keep a record of wrongdoing. So, for example, if you have an expectation of having a clean home, and this is the fourth time this week the kids have messed the house up, what now? What now? Are you going to hold that against them? Or are you going to walk in patience and in love and forgiveness? You see how when we begin to pour things into our mind as it must be, this is what it must be, we leave out the ability for the unexpected. We leave out the ability for the things we cannot plan or we cannot prepare for. And it can lead our emotions, our feelings, and our view of ourselves to be scrutinized, for us to condemn ourselves. Here, I came up with like a 5-step checklist. So for you to test on yourself with your goals, with your expectations, with your dreams, with your desires. None of these things are evil, by the way. I want to make sure that's clear. My wife is a very goal-oriented person, and none of her goals would I ever say, well, it's evil for you to have a goal. It's evil for you to have an expectation. That's not evil. It's not evil for someone to want to have a clean house. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that can make what seems to be an innocent desire, how it can turn into something very evil, and it can turn into something that's not good for you or good for the people around you. Let's look at this 5-step checklist. Let's continue. Number 1, is your goal, desire, dream, we'll just call them goals, is it rigid? Is it what it has to be? Is it cold? Is it unmorphable, unchanging, cannot accommodate? Okay, this is how you know this may be a little bit legalistic in how you have things. I'll give an example. Some people have very legalistic standards when it comes to partners. Obviously, you don't want to have no standards when it comes to that. You don't want to have someone that's going to beat the crap out of you. You obviously don't want that. But in the same token, we kind of want a perfect male or a perfect female, and it's an expectation that may keep you single if you stick too hard to it. And it's also an expectation that can be very hard on someone that may be wanting to be with you, because you recognize in relationships that love conquers a lot of the flaws that you may see in the other person. So just to repeat, number 1, is your goal, expectation, or standard rigid, cold, unaccommodable? You can't accommodate the goal. You can't shift it just a little bit, adjust it, or make adjustments for others because of your goal. 1. Number 2 for your checklist, is your goal hard or taxing? Now, let me go ahead and give a little bit of distinction here. Some things in life are hard and challenging, and they take time. Like, for example, you feel calling to be a doctor. That may not be the most easiest thing to go through all of that school. So I'm in no means saying that there aren't hard things in life. But does your goal feel different than just hard? Does it feel like taxing? Like you're putting something upon yourself that you don't really want to do, you don't really want to pursue. It's not something that speaks to you, but you feel like you have to do it. See, that goes back to number 1, unmorphing, unchanging, etc. And does this goal cause you to be hateful, resentful, angry, upset at yourself or others because of your inability to fulfill it? This is a sign that your goal or dream or desire may be poured into legalistic, concrete standards instead of love. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at number 3. Does your goal stress you out to the point where it gives you anxiety, worry, even physically sick or overwhelmed? This may be something you want to check in on, because the things that come from the Lord, that come from above, they're good, they're easy to be received. Okay? So, like I said, you have to have a little discernment, because there's some things that we go after in life that are challenging. I don't want somebody getting a divorce because they're having a hard time in their marriage. Obviously not. There are things in life that can be challenging and difficult. Please do not get me wrong on this. But sometimes the way we're trying to force our goals, our desires, our dreams upon ourselves or upon others, we have to make sure, like, am I doing this in a legalistic, rigid, cold way that is causing me to stress myself out, get myself sick, or causing me to resent others, to be angry at others, to gossip about others, to view others differently than children of God? Because sometimes the goals that we have don't just affect ourselves, but when other people aren't living up to our expectations, dreams, ideas, or hopes for them or for a situation, we begin to look at them differently, when they may not be living by the same law or legalistic standard, dream, idea, goal. All right, number 4. Do you feel a degree of control or get controlling when it comes to your goal, dream, idea, etc.? You see, trying to control other people or trying to even force yourself to do certain things. Obviously, sometimes you got to hit that gym. Sometimes you need to do certain things, and you don't always want to do them all the time. But the reality is, overall, are we trying to have a degree of control over others when it comes to our dreams, goals, and desires? Say, for example, say I want a wife that is super duper cleanly and tidy, and say I'm married to someone that's not like that. Do I try to control them and form them into my idea or my desire of how things are supposed to look? You see how that can actually hurt my relationship instead of help it or bless it? And sometimes with our dreams, desires, and ideas of other people, the Lord is going to call us to let that go, so we can receive something from Him that may be better and something easier to steward than our own picture of how something is supposed to look. So just a repeat on step number 4 with our dreams, goals, desires. Do you feel this desire to control the situation or a person involved? This may be a sign that your innocent desire, dream, or goal may be poured into concrete, stone, lifeless tablets. And it's now become something that everyone in your life, including you, has to adhere to in order for there to be peace. You see how this can cause a detrimental problem? Let's look at number 5. Number 5. Do you not even want the goal anymore? Is the goal become something you don't really care about, but because of pressure, family, or whoever is in your life, you're continuously doing it or keeping it up, even though it feels like a strain or a struggle for you personally? This could be a sign that you're under the law of performance and not the actual gospel. Because Jesus said that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And many, many people today are in churches, a part of relationships, even dating certain people or at certain jobs, not because they genuinely desire to be there, but rather they are being prodded, poked, and violated by people in their family, church people, cousins, go down the list, in order to make people happy. Now, These laws that we're talking about through these videos, these things need fear. It's like a virus. They need fear and control and a wrong view of God in order for them to survive. Quick reminder, Jesus made it very clear that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Please take off the burdens that other people may be putting on you and place upon yourself the light yoke of Jesus Christ and recline with him as he has finished the work for you and I, so we can enjoy the fruits of his salvation. This is Jonathan Smith signing off, your fool for the gospel. God bless you and have a great day.